able to tell him the meaning of his dreams. Now the cupbearer at last remembers Joseph. He says to Pharaoh, "When I was in prison, there was a man there who could tell the meaning of dreams." Pharaoh has Joseph brought out of prison right away. Pharaoh tells Joseph his dreams. "I saw 7 fat, beautiful cows. Then I saw 7 very thin and bony cows. And the thin ones ate up the fat cows. In my second dream, I saw 7 heads of full, ripe grain growing on one stalk. Then I saw 7 thin, dried out heads of grain. And the thin heads of grain began to swallow up the 7 good heads of grain." Joseph says to Pharaoh, "The 2 dreams mean the same thing. The 7 fat cows and the 7 full heads of grain mean 7 years. And the 7 thin cows and the 7 thin heads of grain mean 7 more years. There will be 7 years when a lot of food will grow in Egypt. Then there will be 7 years when very little food will grow." So Joseph tells Pharaoh, "Choose a wise man and put him in charge of collecting food during the 7 good years. Then the people will not starve during the following 7 bad years when very little food will grow." Pharaoh likes the idea, and he chooses Joseph to collect the food and to store it up. Next to Pharaoh, Joseph becomes the most important man in Egypt. 8 years later, during the famine, Joseph sees some men coming. Do you know who they are? Why, they are his 10 older brothers. Their father Jacob has sent them to Egypt because they were running out of food back home in Canaan. Joseph recognizes his brothers, but they do not recognize him. Do you know why? It is because Joseph has grown older, and he is dressed in a different kind of clothes. Joseph remembers that when he was a boy, he dreamed about his brothers coming to bow down to him. Do you remember reading about that? So Joseph can see that it is God who has sent him down to Egypt, and for a good reason. What do you think Joseph does? Let's see. Story number 24. Joseph tests his brothers. Joseph wants to know if his 10 older brothers are still mean and unkind. So he says, "You are spies. You have come to find where our country is weak." "No, we are not," they say. "We are honest men. We are all brothers. We were 12, but one brother is no more, and the youngest is home with our father." Joseph pretends not to believe them. He keeps the brother named Simeon in prison and lets the others take food and go home. But he tells them, "When you come back, you must bring your youngest brother with you." When they return home to Canaan, the brothers tell their father Jacob everything that happened. Jacob is very sad. "Joseph is no more," he cries, "and now Simeon is no more. I will not let you take my youngest son Benjamin." But when their food begins to run out, Jacob has to let them take Benjamin to Egypt so they can get more food. Now Joseph sees his brothers coming. He is very happy to see his younger brother Benjamin. Of course, none of them know that this important man is Joseph. Joseph now does something to test his 10 half-brothers. He has his servants fill up all their bags with food, but without letting them know, he also has his special silver cup put into Benjamin's bag. After they all leave and have gone a little distance on the road, Joseph sends his servants after them. When they catch up with them, the servants say, "Why have you stolen our master's silver cup?" "We have not stolen his cup," the brothers all say. "If you find the cup with any one of us, let that person be killed." So the servants search through all the bags, and they find the cup in Benjamin's bag, just as you see here. The servants say, "The rest of you can go, but Benjamin must come with us." What will the 10 half-brothers do now? They all return with Benjamin to Joseph's house. Joseph tells his brothers, "You can all go home, but Benjamin must stay here as my slave." Judah now speaks up and says, "If I go back home without the boy, my father will die because he loves him very much. So please, keep me here as your slave, but let the boy go home." Joseph can see that his brothers have changed. They are not mean and unkind anymore. Let's find out what Joseph does now. Story number 25. The family moves to Egypt. Joseph cannot control his feelings any longer. He tells all his servants to leave the room. When he is alone with his brothers, Joseph begins to cry. We can imagine how surprised his brothers are, because they do not know why he is crying. Finally he says, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers are so surprised that they can't speak. They are afraid. But Joseph says, "Please come closer." When they do, he says, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt." Joseph continues to speak in a kind way. "Do not blame yourselves because you sold me here. It was really God who sent me to Egypt to save people's lives. Pharaoh has made me the ruler of the whole country. So now hurry back to my father and tell him this, and tell him to come and live here." Then Joseph throws his arms around his brothers, and he hugs and kisses them all. When Pharaoh hears that Joseph's brothers have come, he tells Joseph, "Let them take wagons and go get their father and their families and come back here. I will give them the best land in all Egypt." That is what they did. Here you can see Joseph meeting his father when he came to Egypt with his whole family. Jacob's family had become very big. Altogether there were 70 when they moved to Egypt, counting Jacob and his children and grandchildren. But there were also the wives, and probably many servants too. These all settled in Egypt. They were called Israelites because God had changed the name of Jacob to Israel. The Israelites became a very special people to God, as we will see later. Story number 26. Job is faithful to God. Do you feel sorry for this sick man? His name is Job, and the woman is his wife. Do you know what she is saying to Job? Curse God and die. Let's see why she would ever say a thing like that, and why Job suffered so much. Job was a faithful man who obeyed Jehovah. He lived in the land of Uz, not far from Canaan. Jehovah loved Job very much, but there was someone who hated him. Do you know who? It was Satan the devil. Remember, Satan is the bad angel who hates Jehovah. He was able to get Adam and Eve to disobey Jehovah, and he thought he could get everybody else to disobey Jehovah too. But was he able to? No. Just think of the many faithful men and women we have learned about. How many can you name? After Jacob and Joseph died in Egypt, Job was the person most faithful to Jehovah in all the earth. Jehovah wanted to let Satan know that he could not get everyone to be bad. So he said, "Look at Job. See how faithful he is to me." "He is faithful," Satan argued, "because you bless him and he has many good things. But if you take these away, he will curse you." So Jehovah said, "Go ahead, take them away. Do all the bad things you want to Job. We will see if he curses me. Only be sure that you do not kill him." First, Satan had men steal Job's cattle and camels, and his sheep were killed. Then he killed his 10 sons and daughters in a storm. Next, Satan struck Job with this terrible sickness. Job suffered very much. That is why Job's wife told him, "Curse God and die." But Job would not do it. Also, 3 false friends came and told him he had lived a bad life. But Job kept faithful. This made Jehovah very happy. And afterward he blessed Job, as you can see in the picture. He healed him from his sickness. Job had 10 more beautiful children, and twice as many cattle, sheep, and camels as he had before. Will you always be faithful to Jehovah like Job? If you are, God will bless you too. You will be able to live forever when the whole earth will be made just as pretty as the Garden of Eden. Story number 27. A bad king rules Egypt. The men here are forcing the people to work. Look at the man who is hitting one of the workers with a whip. The workers are of the family of Jacob and are called Israelites. And the men forcing them to work are Egyptians. The Israelites have become slaves of the Egyptians. How did this happen? For many years, Jacob's big family lived at peace in Egypt. Joseph, who was the most important man in Egypt next to Pharaoh the king, took care of them. But then Joseph died, and a new Pharaoh, who did not like the Israelites, became king in Egypt. So this bad Pharaoh made the Israelites slaves, and he put men in charge of them who were mean and cruel. They forced the Israelites to work very hard building cities for Pharaoh. But still the Israelites kept growing in numbers. After a while, the Egyptians became afraid that the Israelites would become too many and too strong. Do you know what Pharaoh did? He spoke to the women who helped the Israelite mothers when they gave birth to their babies and said, "You must kill every baby boy that is born." But these were good women, and they would not kill the babies. So Pharaoh gave this command to all his people: "Take the baby Israelite boys and kill them. Only let the baby girls live." Wasn't that a terrible thing to command? Let's see how one of the baby boys was saved. Story number 28. How baby Moses was saved. See the little baby crying and holding on to the lady's finger? This is Moses. Do you know who the pretty lady is? She is an Egyptian princess, Pharaoh's own daughter. Moses' mother hid her baby until he was 3 months old because she didn't want him to be killed by the Egyptians. But she knew that Moses might be found, so this is what she did to save him. She took a basket and fixed it so that no water would leak in. Then she put Moses into it and placed the basket in the tall grass along the Nile River. Moses' sister, Miriam, was told to stand nearby and see what would happen. Soon Pharaoh's daughter came down to the Nile River to bathe. Suddenly she saw the basket in the tall grass. She called to one of her servant girls, "Go, get that basket for me." When the princess opened the basket, what a beautiful baby she saw. Little Moses was crying, and the princess felt sorry for him. She didn't want to have him killed. Then Miriam came up. You can see her in the picture. Miriam asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call an Israelite woman to nurse the baby for you?" "Please do," the princess said. So Miriam ran quickly to tell her mother. When Moses' mother came to the princess said, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So Moses' mother took care of her own child. Later, when Moses was old enough, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. That is how Moses came to grow up in the house of Pharaoh. Story number 29. Why Moses ran away. Look at Moses running away from Egypt. Can you see the men chasing him? Do you know why they want to kill Moses? Let's see if we can find out. Moses grew up in the house of Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt. He became a very wise and great man. Moses knew that he was not an Egyptian, but that his real parents were Israelite slaves. One day, when he was 40 years old, Moses decided to go to see how his people were getting along. It was terrible how they were being treated. He saw an Egyptian beating an Israelite slave. Moses looked around, and when he didn't see anybody watching, he hit the Egyptian, and the Egyptian died. Then Moses hid his body in the sand. The next day, Moses went out to see his people again. He thought he could help them so they wouldn't have to be slaves anymore. But he saw 2 Israelite men fighting. So Moses said to the one who was in the wrong, "Why are you beating up your brother?" The man said, "Who made you our ruler and judge? Are you going to kill me just as you killed that Egyptian?" Moses now became afraid. He knew the people had found out what he had done to the Egyptian. Even Pharaoh heard about it, and he sent men to kill Moses. That is why Moses had to run away from Egypt. When Moses left Egypt, he went far away to the land of Midian. There he met the family of Jethro and married one of his daughters named Zipporah. Moses became a shepherd and took care of Jethro's sheep. For 40 years he lived in the land of Midian. He was now 80 years of age. Then one day, while Moses was taking care of Jethro's sheep, an amazing thing happened that changed Moses' whole life. Turn the page and let's see what this amazing thing is. Story number 30, The Burning Bush. Moses had come all the way to the mountain of Horeb to find grass for his sheep. Here he saw a bush on fire, but it wasn't burning up. This is strange, Moses thought. I will go closer and get a better look. When he did, a voice came from the bush saying, "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals because you're standing on holy ground." It was God speaking by means of an angel, so Moses covered his face. God then said, "I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt, so I'm going to free them, and you are the one I am sending to lead my people out of Egypt." Jehovah was going to bring his people to the beautiful land of Canaan. But Moses said, "I am nobody. How can I do this? But suppose I do go. The Israelites will say to me, 'Who sent you?' Then what shall I say?" "This is what you are to say," God answered. "Jehovah, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you." And Jehovah added, "This is my name forever." "But suppose they don't believe me when I say that you sent me," Moses replied. "What is in your hand?" God asked. Moses answered, "A stick." "Throw it on the ground," God said. And when Moses did, the stick became a snake. Jehovah then showed Moses another miracle. He said, "Put your hand inside your robe." Moses did, and when he took his hand out, it was white like snow. The hand looked as if it had the bad sickness called leprosy. Next, Jehovah gave Moses power to do a third miracle. Finally, he said, "When you do these miracles, the Israelites will believe that I sent you." After that, Moses went home and said to Jethro, "Please let me go back to my relatives in Egypt to see how they are." So Jethro said goodbye to Moses, and Moses began his trip back to Egypt. Story number 31, Moses and Aaron see Pharaoh. When Moses returned to Egypt, he told his brother Aaron all about the miracles. And when Moses and Aaron showed the Israelites these miracles, the people all believed that Jehovah was with them. Then Moses and Aaron went to see Pharaoh. They told him, "Jehovah, the God of Israel, says, Let my people go for 3 days so they can worship me in the wilderness." But Pharaoh answered, "I don't believe in Jehovah, and I'm not going to let Israel go." Pharaoh was angry because the people wanted time off from work to worship Jehovah, so he forced them to work even harder. The Israelites blamed Moses for how badly they were treated, and Moses felt sad. But Jehovah told him not to worry. "I will make Pharaoh let my people go," Jehovah said. Moses and Aaron went to see Pharaoh again. This time they did a miracle. Aaron threw down his stick, and it became a big snake. But Pharaoh's wise men also threw down sticks, and snakes appeared. But look, Aaron's snake is eating up the snakes of the wise men. Still, Pharaoh would not let the Israelites go. So the time came for Jehovah to teach Pharaoh a lesson. Do you know how he did it? It was by bringing 10 plagues, or great troubles, on Egypt. After many of the plagues, Pharaoh sent for Moses and said, "Stop the plague and I will let Israel go." But when the plague would stop, Pharaoh would change his mind. He would not let the people go. But finally, after the 10th plague, Pharaoh sent the Israelites away. Do you know each of the 10 plagues? Turn the page and let's learn about them. Story number 32. The 10 Plagues. Look at the pictures. Each one shows a plague that Jehovah brought on Egypt. In the first picture you can see Aaron hitting the Nile River with his stick. When he did, the water in the river turned to blood. The fish died, and the river began to stink. Next, Jehovah caused frogs to come up out of the Nile River. They were everywhere, in the ovens, the baking pans, in people's beds, everywhere. When the frogs died, the Egyptians piled them up in great heaps, and the land stank with them. Then Aaron hit the ground with his stick, and the dust turned into gnats. These are small flying bugs that bite. The gnats were the 3rd plague on the land of Egypt. The rest of the plagues hurt only the Egyptians, not the Israelites. The 4th was a plague of big flies that swarmed into the houses of all the Egyptians. The 5th plague was on the animals. Many of the cattle and sheep and goats of the Egyptians died. Next, Moses and Aaron took some ashes and threw them into the air. They caused bad sores on the people and the animals. This was the 6th plague. After that, Moses raised his hand toward the sky, and Jehovah sent thunder and hail. It was the worst hailstorm that Egypt ever had. The 8th plague was a large swarm of locusts. Never before that time or since have there been so many locusts. They ate everything that the hail had not destroyed. The 9th plague was of darkness. For 3 days, thick darkness covered the land. But the Israelites had light where they were living. Finally, God told his people to sprinkle the blood of a young goat or a young sheep on their doorposts. Then God's angel passed over Egypt. When the angel saw the blood, he did not kill anyone in that house. But in all the houses where there was no blood on the doorposts, God's angel killed the firstborn ones of both man and animals. This was the 10th plague. After this last plague, Pharaoh told the Israelites to leave. God's people were all ready to go, and that very night they started their march out of Egypt. Story number 33. Crossing the Red Sea. Look at what is happening. That is Moses with his stick stretched out over the Red Sea. Those with him, safely on the other side, are the Israelites. But Pharaoh and all his army are being drowned in the sea. Let's see how this came about. As we learned, Pharaoh told the Israelites to leave Egypt after God brought the 10th plague on the Egyptians. About 600,000 Israelite men left, as well as many women and children. Also, a large number of other people who had become believers in Jehovah left with the Israelites. They all took their sheep and goats and cattle with them. Before they left, the Israelites asked the Egyptians for clothes and for things made of gold and silver. The Egyptians were very much afraid because of that last plague upon them, so they gave the Israelites everything they asked for. After a few days, the Israelites came to the Red Sea. There they rested. In the meantime, Pharaoh and his men began to feel sorry that they had sent the Israelites away. "We have let our slaves go," they said. So Pharaoh changed his mind once more. He quickly got his war chariot and his army ready. Then he began to chase after the Israelites with 600 special chariots, as well as all the other chariots of Egypt. When the Israelites saw Pharaoh and his army coming after them, they were very much afraid. There was no way to flee. The Red Sea was on one side of them, and here the Egyptians were coming from the other direction. But Jehovah put a cloud between his people and the Egyptians, so the Egyptians were not able to see the Israelites to attack them. Jehovah then told Moses to stretch his stick out over the Red Sea. When he did, Jehovah caused a strong east wind to blow. The waters of the sea were parted, and the waters were held up on both sides. Then the Israelites began to march through the sea on dry ground. It took hours for the millions of people with all their animals to get safely through the sea to the other side. Finally, the Egyptians were able to see the Israelites again. Their slaves were getting away, so they rushed into the sea after them. When they did, God caused the wheels of their chariots to fall off. The Egyptians became very much afraid and began to cry out, "Jehovah's fighting for the Israelites against us. Let's get out of here." But it was too late. This is when Jehovah told Moses to stretch his stick out over the Red Sea, as you saw in the picture. And when Moses did, the walls of water began to come back and cover the Egyptians and their chariots. The whole army had followed the Israelites into the sea, and not one of the Egyptians got out alive. How happy all God's people were to be saved. The men sang a song of thanks to Jehovah, saying, "Jehovah has won a glorious victory. He has thrown the horses and their riders into the sea." Moses' sister Miriam took her tambourine, and all the women followed her with their tambourines. And as they danced with joy, they sang the same song as the men were singing. "Jehovah has won a glorious victory. He has thrown the horses and their riders into the sea." Part 3. Deliverance from Egypt to Israel's first king. Moses led the Israelites from captivity in Egypt to Mount Sinai, where God gave them his laws. Later, Moses sent 12 men to spy out the land of Canaan. But 10 of them returned with a bad report. They caused the people to want to go back to Egypt. For their lack of faith, God punished the Israelites by having them wander for 40 years in the wilderness. Finally, Joshua was chosen to lead the Israelites into the land of Canaan. To help them take the land, Jehovah caused miracles to happen. He made the Jordan River stop flowing, the walls of Jericho to fall down, and the sun to stand still for a whole day. After 6 years, the land was taken from the Canaanites. Beginning with Joshua, Israel was ruled for 356 years by judges. We learn about many of them, including Barak, Gideon, Jephthah, Samson, and Samuel. We also read about such women as Rahab, Deborah, Jael, Ruth, Naomi, and Delilah. In all, Part 3 covers 396 years of history. Story number 34, a new kind of food. Can you tell what the people are picking up off the ground? It is like frost. It is white, and it is thin and flaky. But it's not frost, it's something to eat. It has been only about a month since the Israelites left Egypt. They are in the wilderness. Little food grows here, and so the people complain, saying, "We wish that Jehovah had killed us in Egypt. At least there we had all the food that we wanted." So Jehovah says, "I am going to cause food to rain down from the sky." And this is what Jehovah does. The next morning, when the Israelites see this white stuff that has fallen, they ask one another, "What is it?" Moses says, "This is the food that Jehovah has given you to eat." The people call it manna. It tastes like thin cakes made with honey. "You are to pick up as much as each person can eat," Moses tells the people. So each morning this is what they do. Then when the sun gets hot, the manna left on the ground melts. Moses also says, no one is to save any of the manna over to the next day. But some of the people don't listen. Do you know what happens? The next morning, the manna that they have saved is full of worms, and it begins to stink. There is one day of the week, however, that Jehovah tells the people to gather twice as much manna. This is the 6th day. And Jehovah says to save some of it over to the next day, because he will not cause any to fall on the 7th day. When they save the manna over to the 7th day, it doesn't get full of worms, and it doesn't stink. This is another miracle. All the years that the Israelites are in the wilderness, Jehovah feeds them with manna. Story number 35. Jehovah gives his laws. About 2 months after they leave Egypt, the Israelites come to Mount Sinai, which is also called Horeb. This is the same place where Jehovah spoke to Moses from the burning bush. The people camp here and stay for a while. As the people wait below, Moses climbs the mountain. Up there on top of the mountain, Jehovah tells Moses that he wants the Israelites to obey him and to become his special people. When Moses comes down, he tells the Israelites what Jehovah has said. And the people say that they will obey Jehovah because they want to be his people. Jehovah now does a strange thing. He makes the top of the mountain smoke and causes loud thunder. He also speaks to the people, "I am Jehovah your God, who brought you out of Egypt." Then he commands, "You must not worship any other gods except me." God gives the Israelites 9 more commandments or laws. The people are very afraid. They tell Moses, "You speak to us, because we are afraid that if God speaks to us, we may die." Later, Jehovah tells Moses, "Come up to me in the mountain. I will give you 2 flat stones on which I have written the laws that I want the people to keep." So Moses again goes up into the mountain. For 40 days and nights he stays there. God has many, many laws for his people. Moses writes these laws down. God also gives Moses the 2 flat stones. On these, God himself has written the 10 laws that he spoke to all the people. They are called the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are important laws, but so are the many other laws that God gives the Israelites. One of these laws is, you must love Jehovah your God with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole soul, and your whole strength. And another is, you must love your neighbor as yourself. God's Son, Jesus Christ, said that these are the 2 greatest laws that Jehovah gave to his people Israel. Later, we will learn many things about God's Son and his teachings. Story number 36. The Golden Calf. Uh-oh. What are the people doing now? They are praying to a calf. Why are they doing this? When Moses stays up on the mountain for a long time, the people say, "We do not know what has happened to Moses, so let's make a god to lead us out of this land." "All right," Moses' brother Aaron says, "take off your gold earrings and bring them to me." When the people do so, Aaron melts them down and makes a golden calf. And the people say, "This is our God who led us out of Egypt." Then the Israelites have a big party and worship the golden calf. When Jehovah sees this, he is very angry. So he says to Moses, "Hurry and go down. The people are acting very badly. They have forgotten my laws and are bowing down to a golden calf." Moses hurries down the mountain, and when he gets close, this is what he sees. The people are singing and dancing around the golden calf. Moses is so angry that he throws down the 2 flat stones with the laws on them, and they break into many, many pieces. He then takes the golden calf and melts it down. Then he grinds it into powder. The people have done a very bad thing. So Moses tells some of the men to take their swords. "The bad people who worship the golden calf must die," Moses says. And so the men strike dead 3,000 people. Doesn't this show that we need to be careful to worship only Jehovah and not any false gods? Story number 37. A tent for worship. Do you know what this building is? It is a special tent for worshiping Jehovah. It is also called the Tabernacle. The people finished building it 1 year after they left Egypt. Do you know whose idea it was to build it? It was Jehovah's idea. While Moses was up on Mount Sinai, Jehovah told him how to build it. He said to make it so that it could easily be taken apart. In this way, the parts could be carried to another place and there be put together again. So when the Israelites moved from place to place in the wilderness, they carried the tent with them. If you look inside the small room at the end of the tent, you can see a box or chest. This is called the Ark of the Covenant. It had 2 angels or cherubs made of gold, one on each end. God again wrote the 10 Commandments on 2 flat stones because Moses had broken the first ones, and these stones were kept inside the Ark of the Covenant. Also a jar of manna was kept inside it. Do you remember what manna is? Moses' brother Aaron is the one that Jehovah chooses to be the high priest. He leads the people in worshiping Jehovah. And his sons are priests too. Now look at the bigger room of the tent. It is twice as big as the small room. Do you see the box or little chest with some smoke going up from it? This is the altar where the priest burns some sweet-smelling stuff called incense. Then there is the lampstand that has 7 lamps. And the third thing in the room is a table. On it are kept 12 loaves of bread. In the yard of the tabernacle, there is a big bowl or basin that is filled with water. The priests use it for washing. There's also the big altar. Here the dead animals are burned as an offering to Jehovah. The tent is right in the middle of the camp, and the Israelites live in their tents all around it. Story number 38. The 12 Spies. Look at the fruit these men are carrying. See how big that bunch of grapes is. It takes 2 men to carry it on a pole. And see the figs and the pomegranates. Where did this beautiful fruit come from? From the land of Canaan. Remember, Canaan is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob once lived. But because of the famine there, Jacob, with his family, moved to Egypt. Now, about 216 years later, Moses is leading the Israelites back to Canaan. They have come to a place in the wilderness called Kadesh. Bad people live in the land of Canaan. So Moses sends out 12 spies and tells them, "Find out how many people live there and how strong they are. Find out if the ground is good for growing things, and be sure to bring back some of the fruit." When the spies come back to Kadesh, they tell Moses, "It is really a fine country." And to prove it, they show Moses some of the fruit. But 10 of the spies say, "The people who live there are big and strong. We will be killed if we try to take the land." The Israelites are afraid when they hear this. "It would have been better to die in Egypt or even here in the wilderness," they say. "We will be killed in battle and our wives and children will be captured. Let's choose a new leader in place of Moses and go back to Egypt." But 2 of the spies trust in Jehovah and try to calm the people. Their names are Joshua and Caleb. They say, "Don't be afraid. Jehovah is with us. It will be easy to take the land." But the people don't listen. They even want to kill Joshua and Caleb. This makes Jehovah very angry, and he tells Moses, "None of the people from 20 years of age and over will go into the land of Canaan. They have seen the miracles that I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, but still they don't trust me. So they will wander in the wilderness for 40 years until the last person dies. Only Joshua and Caleb will go into the land of Canaan." Story number 39. Aaron's rod grows flowers. See the flowers and ripe almonds growing from this rod or stick. This is the rod of Aaron. These flowers and the ripe fruit grew out of Aaron's rod in just one night. Let's see why. The Israelites have been wandering in the wilderness for a while now. Some of the people don't think Moses should be the leader or that Aaron should be the high priest. Korah is one who thinks this way, and so are Dathan, Abiram, and 250 leaders of the people. These all come and say to Moses, "Why is it that you put yourself above the rest of us?" Moses tells Korah and his followers, "Tomorrow morning, take fire holders and put incense in them. Then come to Jehovah's tabernacle. We will see whom Jehovah will choose." The next day, Korah and his 250 followers come to the tabernacle. Many others come along to support these men. Jehovah is very angry. "Get away from the tents of these bad men," Moses says. "Don't touch anything that belongs to them." The people listen and move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Then Moses says, "By this you will know whom Jehovah has chosen. The ground will open and swallow up these bad men." As soon as Moses stops talking, the ground opens. Korah's tent and belongings, and Dathan and Abiram and those with them go down, and the ground closes over them. When the people hear the cries of those falling into the ground, they shout, "Run! The earth might swallow us too." Korah and his 250 followers are still near the tabernacle. So Jehovah sends fire, and all of them are burned up. Then Jehovah tells Aaron's son Eleazar to take the fire holders of the dead men and to make a thin covering for the altar with them. This altar covering is to serve as a warning to the Israelites that no one besides Aaron and his sons should act as priest for Jehovah. But Jehovah wants to make very clear that it is Aaron and his sons whom he has chosen to be priests. So he tells Moses, "Have a leader of each tribe of Israel bring his rod. For the tribe of Levi, have Aaron bring his rod. Then put each of these rods in the tabernacle in front of the ark of the covenant. The rod of the man that I have chosen as priest will grow flowers. When Moses looks the next morning, why, Aaron's rod has these flowers and ripe almonds growing out of it. So, do you see now why Jehovah caused Aaron's rod to grow flowers? Story number 40. Moses strikes the rock. Year after year passes. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 39 years. And the Israelites are still in the wilderness. But all these years, Jehovah takes care of his people. He feeds them with manna. He leads them during the day with a pillar of cloud, and by night with a pillar of fire. And all during these years their clothes don't wear out, and their feet don't get sore. It is now the first month of the 40th year since leaving Egypt. The Israelites again camp at Kadesh. This is where they were when the 12 spies were sent to spy out the land of Canaan nearly 40 years before. Moses' sister Miriam dies at Kadesh. And as before, there is trouble here. The people can't find any water. So they complain to Moses, "It would have been better if we had died. Why did you bring us out of Egypt into this terrible place where nothing will grow? There are no grain, no figs, no grapes, no pomegranates. There isn't even any water to drink." When Moses and Aaron go to the tabernacle to pray, Jehovah tells Moses, "Gather the people together, then in front of them all, speak to that rock over there. Enough water will come out of it for the people and all their animals." So Moses gathers the people and says, "Listen, you who have no trust in God. Do Aaron and I have to get water out of this rock for you?" Then Moses strikes the rock twice with a stick, and a great stream of water comes pouring out of the rock. There is enough water for all the people and animals to drink. But Jehovah is angry with Moses and Aaron. Do you know why? It is because Moses and Aaron said that they were going to bring water from the rock. But really, Jehovah did it. And because Moses and Aaron didn't tell the truth about this, Jehovah says that he is going to punish them. "You will not lead my people into Canaan," he says. Soon, the Israelites leave Kadesh. After a short while, they come to Mount Hor. Here, up on top of the mountain, Aaron dies. He is 123 years of age at the time of his death. The Israelites are very sad, and so for 30 days all the people weep for Aaron. His son Eleazar becomes the next high priest of the nation of Israel. Story number 41. The Copper Serpent. Does that look like a real snake wrapped around the pole? It isn't. The snake is made of copper. Jehovah told Moses to put it up on the pole so that the people could look at it and keep alive. But the other snakes on the ground are real. They have bitten the people and made them sick. Do you know why? It is because the Israelites have spoken against God and Moses. They complained, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to die in this wilderness? There is no food or water here, and we can't stand to eat this manna anymore." But the manna is good food. By a miracle, Jehovah has given it to them. And by a miracle, he has given them water too. But the people aren't thankful for the way God has taken care of them. So Jehovah sends these poisonous snakes to punish the Israelites. The snakes bite them, and many of them die. Finally, the people come to Moses and say, "We have sinned because we have spoken against Jehovah and you. Now pray to Jehovah to take these snakes away." So Moses prays for the people, and Jehovah tells Moses to make this copper snake. He says to put it on a pole, and that anyone who is bitten should look at it. Moses does just what God says. And the people who were bitten look at the copper snake, and they get well again. There is a lesson to learn from this. All of us are, in a way, like those Israelites who were bitten by those snakes. We are all in a dying condition. Look around, and you will see that people grow old, get sick, and die. This is because the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, turned away from Jehovah, and we are all their children. But Jehovah has made a way so we can live forever. Jehovah sent his Son, Jesus Christ, to earth. Jesus was hung on a stake because many people thought he was bad. But Jehovah gave Jesus to save us. If we look to him, if we follow him, then we can have everlasting life. But we will learn more about this later. Story number 42. A Donkey Talks. Have you ever heard of a donkey's talking? No, you may say. Animals can't talk. But the Bible tells about a donkey that did. Let's see how it happened. The Israelites are almost ready to go into the land of Canaan. Balak, the king of Moab, is afraid of the Israelites. So he sends for a smart man named Balaam to come to curse the Israelites. Balak promises to give Balaam a lot of money. So Balaam gets on his donkey and starts on his way to see Balak. Jehovah does not want Balaam to curse his people, so he sends an angel with a long sword to stand in the road to stop Balaam. Balaam can't see the angel, but his donkey does. So the donkey keeps trying to turn away from the angel, and finally just lies down on the road. Balaam is very angry and beats his donkey with a stick. Then Jehovah causes Balaam to hear his donkey speak to him. "What have I done to you so that you should beat me?" asks the donkey. "You have made me look like a fool," Balaam says. "If I had a sword, I would kill you." "Have I ever treated you like this before?" the donkey asks. "No," Balaam answers. Then Jehovah lets Balaam see the angel with the sword standing on the road. The angel says, "Why have you beaten your donkey?" "I have come to block your way because you should not be going to curse Israel. If your donkey had not turned away from me, I would have struck you dead, but I would not have hurt your donkey." Balaam says, "I have sinned. I did not know that you were standing on the road."